Greetings viewers to a review of last week's stop motion battle 12B of Season 6 between our slightly modified group of heroes, of champions, and some Dark Eldar homunculi and other assorted bits and pieces. Anyway, let's have a look at the board as far as what we're doing. This stage, like usual, I haven't actually started the battle yet, so I don't know how this is going to work out. But what we've had, I've just finished filming the introduction at this stage. So we've got our group of heroes, which, like I said, slightly modified. We've got a couple of guys, Jethro Gibson, the Adeptus Arbitus, who's all kitted up now with some armour and plasma pistol, etc. We've got Patrick Mead, who those with a keen eye when they moved down this corridor would have noticed that he broke his weapon, his axe. That's his little substitute there, so he was going to have a short range weapon. I'm going to have to fix him up. So he's gone for his second weapon loadout, which is just 2 axes there. So with these guys like Jethro Gibson, he's going to switch between his weaponry. Same with Vince Mogler there, he's got the sniper rifle here today, so we'll see how he goes. Now they walk down this corridor and there's a big, I don't know what to say, big battle. Some sounds sound really bad down that corridor, and down that corridor came our new hero, which is this guy here. I can't remember his name, he showed his face early in the season. I'm going to have to flesh that out and flesh his character out. I'll work his name out later. So he said basically don't go down that corridor, big nasties. There's a way to get deeper into Drea'Voor by going down a tunnel, like a trapdoor sort of thing. And this is a room full of supposed refuse, and this trapdoor, as they came into the room, out of this trapdoor came all these Dark Eldar, and those guys, they dragged out, I should say, an Eldar, a normal Eldari, because what had happened, my thoughts were anyway, I don't know how it's going to translate, but is that guy here, this guy here, was thrown down the grate. For those who are following this season, there's these grates around the place and bodies are thrown down there so the ancients can feed. So that guy was thrown down there, and these guys, they don't want to see any flesh go to waste, so they fished him out, fished that guy up there out of the grate, brought him up here and then proceeded to dissect him. I haven't actually worked on the animations for all that yet, so they don't want the ancients to have the joy of cutting him up, so they thought they would do it. So obviously this hasn't really impressed our Farseer familiar there. So she has gone, oh no, what are you doing, killing my kind, etc, etc. And then the battle is on. So we've got Dark Eldar, those guys will fan out and take various positions around the place in turn 1, versus our group of champions trying to get deeper into Drea'Voor. So there you go, that's a rough layout of the battle. We've got turn 1 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of turn 1. The Dark Eldar got off to a flying start. They went first, and they just basically dispersed out around this area here. So we had basically some racks go out this way and take a position around this rocky refuse area. We had homunculi number 1 just come from here to here, and we had the grotesque get out there and lead the charge, try and take up and soak up some fire, incoming fire. So that's how that was done. Over this side, trying to meander their way down this little alleyway went the rest of the Dark Eldar. So that's the formation of how they deployed. They went 4 went that way, 2 went that way, the rest went that way, and that's what they did. There was a bit of firing. We had some weapon fire from the leading rack just there. and tried to take out the Custodes. No surprise what happened there. Custodes is still alive. Likewise, we had some Farseer Eldritch Magic fired back in another direction, back against the Grotesque, I believe, and nothing happened there either. Over here we've got our new Inquisitor taking a front position next behind this cover of this rock here, trying to fire upon some of the Dark Eldar hiding back behind there. So no casualties there either. And Jakero sitting there, tried to have a go at the Grotesque just there. Nothing there either. So a lot of firing and no casualties. So pretty uneventful turn one. We've got our Adeptus Arbites who's taking a flanking type route up this way, trying to sneak out from maybe behind that rock and ambush people as they come past. So that's going to be something for a future turn. Alright, that's what we have for turn one. We hopefully get some more action in turn two. Here we are on turn two, right at the end of turn two, and the Dark Eldar got the jump on our heroes once again. Basically moving across the board, we had these racks here. Basically just move up through this rubble up here, take a position here. Same with this one in the middle here. Our Grotesque took a position behind that bit of cover there, but there was huge focus fire from our new Inquisitor, then Smuggler, the Eldar and the Tower over there. All that just basically took out the Grotesque. The Custodes was right at the front there and basically snuck around the back and thought, well, we'll strategically move down this side because it needs a bit of bolstering, because we've got quite a few Dark Eldar over here. We had, just move over this side, we had a Homunculus here, basically take out the Cyber Mastiff that was just sitting there. And we've got some other Dark Eldar characters basically sitting, waiting. We had some fire from these two units here against the Custodes, and the Terminator armour held up pretty well there, so he's fine. The Jakero basically shot at the Homunculus as well, not taking it out. So overall we had one casualty on each side, the Cyber Mastiff and the Grotesque. It's going to get pretty bloody in the next turn. We've got turn three coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of turn three, and the howls of the ancients can be heard from the caverns below. That's going to be our next battle after this, or actually it's probably going to be over the next 5 or 6 battles, venturing deeper below Myth Drea'Voor. Anyway, turn three. We've seen both armies converge around this centre section here. Looking at this side of the board, we had Patrick Mead withdraw, change weapons from dual wielding axes to take out a pistol and fire just there. He could have charged in, but then it would have probably exposed him to various other attacks. And hey, he's got to try out his new gun anyway, so that's what he's doing. And it didn't kill the rack there, so that didn't work so well. No doubt he'll get into the combat fairly shortly. In the middle here we had all the combined fire from here taking out Farseer Familiar, who pretty much dies first in every battle. I don't know why, but it just seems to happen. Over this side we had Homunculus come charging through here and get into a combat which was joined by Jethro Gibson, and the Jakero got taken out at that stage. Victor Palladius went charging in to meet the oncoming Dark Eldar, and no one got hurt there, so that'll be ongoing. Over here we actually had some fire from this guy here against Ven Smuggler, but he's too slippery now with his camo cloak, so didn't take him out. These guys returned fire, actually fired this guy over here and took him out. So a couple of casualties on either side. It's not looking so good for the heroes. There's still quite a few Dark Eldar, but we're only at turn 3. We're going to have to see what happens in turn 4 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of turn 4, and both sides have basically converged into a variety of melee combats. But starting over here, we had this rack here charge into Patrick Mead, who stood his ground, and then On Zin basically came around this rock here and joined the combat and basically finished off that rack. These two homunculi here, the rack and the homunculi, they were behind this little rocky area here. They basically came down through here, joined up the combat here with Ven Smuggler and their new Inquisitor, and basically it was a tie, one casualty for each side. So that is ongoing. Moving over this side, we had Jethro Gibson going toe to toe with a homunculi, and they could go any way. Jethro Gibson's holding up fairly well there, considering. Speaking of which, we've got Victor Palladius here, who's taking on no less than 4 opponents just in this little bottlenecked area here, and he managed to take out 1, but heavily wounded. I don't know how much longer he's going to last. Still, there's 3 left there, which could do some more damage. So there we have turn 4, fairly evenly balanced at this stage, I would say. We'll wait and see what turn 5 brings us. Here we are at the end of turn 5, and there's been a couple of casualties, or there's 3 in fact. Firstly, we had On Zin and Patrick Mead. They were back behind this rocky area here, charge in and help out our new Inquisitor here, taking out the homunculus just there. So they control that area, our heroes. Over here it's not so good. Jethro Gibson finally succumbed to the combat there. He's taken out, and also Victor Palladius just couldn't take them all on. There was 3 of them there and they took him out. So Dark Eldar controlling this area, and we've got 3 of our heroes still remaining here. Could go any way. Dark Eldar with a slight edge. Last turn coming up shortly. Well, that's it. That's the end of turn 6 and our battle. So it came right down to the wire in the end. We had the champions get the initiative in this section, and basically we had the Inquisitor and Patrick Mead take a position behind this rock here and just sit there guarding essentially, and On Zin basically do the same in that direction. Then the Dark Eldar came out. The homunculus here came around this corner here. These 2 came from up here, and this one here didn't quite make it into melee contact, and that's probably the difference in the battle there. It was out in the middle of no man's land, got fired upon by these 2, killing it. On Zin got a hugely lucky roll and took out the homunculus up there, didn't even get a shot off. So that was it. There was a couple of futile attempts at the end by these guys to take out 1 of our heroes, but that didn't happen. So very, very close game, but our heroes win. So now I'll move on to the next narrative section and the next battle. Now down this alleyway here is going to be our next battle. We've got a huge big open area. You'll have seen it on the map. There's going to be some large armies in there. I'm not going to go into what that's about, but our heroes aren't going to go down that direction. They're going to sneak across here and go down this grate here, and look to get closer to the ancients. So I'm not going to give any more spoilers out than that, but our story continues. Thanks very much for following my narrative stop motion videos, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next week.